Hey, there's a little video on some on the oddities of maintenance in regards to the difficulty settings. Little disclaimer, first of all, I'm a streamer, not a YouTuber, I have no idea how this works. Secondly, these only matters if you play on an increased or decreased difficulty or due to some other reason changed your maintenance settings. If you play on 100% maintenance at all times anyway, this is not interesting for you. Okay, so let's have a look at it. So, what is the issue? Here we have a truck. This is on easy difficulty, aka Sailor. My truck needs a 2.4 maintenance, that is a standard truck, so yellow. 2.4. Currently have no maintenance relevant edicts active. How about I reduce my maintenance by 15% and by 10%, so by a quarter? Right, 2.4 minus a quarter should give me 1.8. What do I get? 1.4. Okay, now this is great. This means I just saved a bit over 40% instead of the 25% that I should get. But here we also have a truck. It needs 4.8 maintenance because now I'm on hard difficulty. And if I reduce that by a quarter, 4.8 minus a quarter should give me 3.6. I'm on 3.8. Alright, so what does that mean? Yes, this is MS Paint. This is the mask that we just had for the easy difficulty. 2.4 was what I had. Then I reduced it by a quarter, so times 0.75 equals 1.4. And as you can see, I hope, this is wrong. This shouldn't be like that. But you have to remember the way it should actually be. First is this is how I get to those 2.4. The truck does have a base amount of 4. Then I reduce it by 40% and I get to 2.4. So that is why it was 2.4 at the start. And if I then do this here, it makes perfect sense. I have the base amount of 4 times, and now 1 minus the 40%, just like before, and minus an additional quarter. If you do it like this, then yes, absolutely, it does end up being 1.4. 1 minus minus 0.65, so this bracket here is 0.35, and 0.35 times 4 is 1.4. Yep, now the math works, so this is perfectly fine. In the same vein, if I go for the other one on the hard difficulty, this is what I could see in game. I start out at 4.8, I then reduce it by a quarter, and I end up with 3.8. That is wrong. Again, you got to remember though that the amount at the start was changed. So again, there's a base amount of 4. Because of difficulty, it's increased by 20%. So times 1 plus 0.2, and I get to 4.8. And that is a value that I see in the game, maintenance of 4.8. And if I now do the same again with the minus a quarter, it works perfectly fine. Now I've got 4 times 1 plus 20% because of difficulty, minus 25% because of the edict, and I end up with 3.8%. Now, that makes perfect sense. The problem is, what you see in the game is just a certain amount that you start out with, so the 2.4 or the 4.8, and then you see a button that says, hey, reduce it by a quarter, and it doesn't actually reduce it by a quarter. And this, what you have on the screen now on the right side, is how it actually works and how you end up with those numbers, but you can't really get there by normal logic from inside the game, unless of course you remember that as you started the game there was a slider, well, a drop down menu, and you changed something there. I think that's not good. However, if you look at the value, we are at the 2.4 again, so we are on easy difficulty. if you look at the 2.4, if I increase it by 20% and by another 20% by the overloaded trucks, I do end up with 3.4. And yeah, going from 2.4 to 3.4, that is a roughly 40% increase. Obviously there's a bit of a rounding error because you only see 2 digits. So when it comes to the overloaded truck, that is actually done in a normal multiplicative way, unlike the maintenance. So you don't have to worry about this one. And the maintenance reducer, on the other hand, it does mean that on easier difficulty, not only do you have a lower base amount anyway, but additionally, that edict with the maintenance reduction is much stronger on easy difficulty, and it is actually weaker on the higher difficulty. And now imagine you play some kind of RPG or whatever, run around with a sword and fight a dragon, and you play on easy difficulty, so your sword deals more damage, or the sword only has 20% of the hit points and only deals half damage or whatever. Fine, you already have it easier. But additionally, if you were to find a ring that gives you 10% critical damage, it says increases critical damage by 10%, it actually gives you plus 20% critical damage. Or you find a shield that says reduces damage taken by 10%, it actually reduces damage by 20%, without even telling you, the player, that that is the case. On the other hand, imagine, same game, you play in hard difficulty, and you find a shield that says reduces damage taken by 20%, you equip it, it actually only reduces damage taken by 10%. I don't know, I don't like it, so I would actually consider that a bug. So, here I spell it out once more, and this is a bit more the complete formula now. So, what we have is the base amount, 4, and the whole 4 is multiplied by, oh my, here we go, 1, that's the easy part, minus whatever effect I get from the edicts, minus whatever reduction I get from the statutes of maintenance. In this case, I just take 3. I think it's a somewhat normal number for half multiple. And of course, the difficulty, so another 0.4. And that gives me 2.12. If it wasn't for the statute of maintenance, that would be the 2.4 that I showed in the game. I just now added the 3 statutes of maintenance, 2.12. And if I now add the edicts, so this part here, if I now put those in, then with those 2 edicts, which should be a 25% reduction, I actually get a 47% reduction, because it is already so reduced. And this is just a common issue with additive stacking, when you have an effect that reduces something. That's actually in many different games. It's a rather normal issue. Happens all the time. And if you check this now for the higher difficulty, so for Admiral, the only difference here is that instead of the minus 0.4, we now have minus a 0.2, because we actually have a 20% increase. And the rest of the numbers are the same, but now I go from 4.52, which would be the normal truck with a 4 maintenance as a base value, but it's 20% increased because of difficulty, so we're on 4.8, but it's 7% reduced again because of the statute of maintenance, and we end up with the 4.52. And so that is the normal amount that you would see as an Admiral player in-game if you have 3 statutes of maintenance, and if you activate those 2 edicts, you go down to 3.52, which is a 22% reduction. I know it's not a drastic difference compared to the 25 that you should get, still, you get less out of that edict, and that kind of smells. And the suggestion now on how to do it properly, this is now essentially the same as what you see on the screen, but instead of additive, because you see how there are minus signs, Now we just try to multiply the effects. So that means, here we go. I now have 4 times 1 minus 0, because there is no edict active right now, times 1 minus whatever I get from the statute of maintenance, times 1 minus 0.4, and that gives me 2.23. So that is the way it should be, in my opinion, multiplicative stacking of the maintenance effects. It would mean that the maintenance on easy would, be a tiny bit higher. So your truck with 3 statutes of maintenance, they don't really make a difference alone. But yeah, your truck would cost you 2.23 instead of 2.12. And it would be no difference whatsoever, by the way, without the statutes of maintenance. So in the case here above, so the first line, that would be 2.4 without the statutes, and the new solution, you would still be on 2.4 without the statutes. It's just that the statutes help you a little less, because they actually only give you 7% like they should. And if you were to now activate the 2 edicts, you end up with this line. As you can see in the first bracket there, the 0 has now been replaced with the 0.15 and the 0.1, so the 15% and the 10% reduction. And yeah, if you do the math, from 2.23 to 1.67, that's actually a 25% reduction, because the 2 edicts, one says 15, the other one says 10, it should give you 25, now we actually have 25. In the same vein, if I now do exactly the same, but instead of the minus 0.4 in the last bracket, I do plus the, then you get to, oopsie, I had a typo. Then you get to this, it's exactly the same, except for that tiny change there, which I just had to make, and you go from 4.47 to 3.35, which is a 25% reduction, like it should be. So yeah, the solution to the little issue here would just be to do multiplicative instead of additive stacking, which, by the way, like I said before, is already the case for the one effect that increases your maintenance. Don't know why it's different there. So yeah, if they were to make any changes to anything there anyway, this should be rather straightforward to do. And yeah, if they don't, the negative effects are just that as a beginner you may kind of learn it wrong. Let's put it like that, because it's the maintenance reduction effect is just far too strong. If you use the edict, it's almost like a cheat code. Because just that edict just halves your maintenance. And I personally think it's a bit unfair that on the higher difficulty, the things that you can do to reduce the maintenance are less effective. Hey, that thing, that tactic that you should use, yeah, we nerfed it. Yeah. Oh well, that's all. Have a nice day.